The Rise of Valyria. As Westeros recovered from the long night, a new power was rising in Essos. The vast continent stretching from the Narrow Sea to the fabled Jade Sea and faraway Ulfos seems to be the place where civilization as we know it developed. The first of these, notwithstanding the dubious claims of Kaf, the Yiddish legends of the great Empire of the Dawn, and the difficulties of finding any truth in the tales of legendary Ashai, was rooted in Old Gis, a city built upon slavery. The legendary founder of the city, Grazdan the Great, remains so revered that men of the slaver families are still often given his name. It was he who, according to the oldest histories of the Giscari, founded the lockstep legions, with their tall shields and free spears, which were the first to fight as disciplined bodies. Old Gis and its army proceeded to colonize its surroundings, then pressing on to subjugate its neighbours. Thus was the first empire born, and for centuries it reigned supreme. It was on the great peninsula across from Slavers Bay that those who brought an end to the empire of Old Gis, though not to all of their ways, originated. Sheltered there amidst the great volcanic mountains known as the 14 Flames were the Valyrians, who learned to tame dragons and make them the most fearsome weapon of war that the world ever saw. The tales the Valyrians told of themselves claimed they were descended from dragons and were kin to the ones they now controlled. The great beauty of the Valyrians, with their hair of palest silver or gold, and eyes and shades of purple not found among any other peoples of the world, is well known, and often held up as proof that the Valyrians are not entirely of the same blood as other men. Yet there are maesters who point out that, by careful breeding of animals, one can achieve a desirable result, and that populations in isolation can often show quite remarkable variations from what might be regarded as common. This may be a likelier answer to the mysteries of the Valyrian origins, although it does not explain the affinity with dragons that those with the blood of Valyria clearly had. The Valyrians had no kings, but instead called themselves the Freehold, because all the citizenry who held land had a voice. Archons might be chosen to help lead, but they were elected by the Lord's Freeholder from amongst their number, and only for a limited time. It was rare for Valyria to be swayed by one freeholding family alone, though it was not entirely unknown either. The 5 great wars between the Freehold and Old Gis when the world was young are the stuff of legend. Conflagrations that ended each time in the victory of the Valyrians over the Giscari. It was during the 5th and final war that the Freehold chose to make sure there would be no 6th war. The ancient brick walls of Old Gis, first erected by Grazdan the Great in ancient days, were razed. The colossal pyramids and temples and homes were given over to Dragonflame. The fields were sworn with salt, lime and skulls. Many of the Giscari were slain, and still others were enslaved and died labouring for their conquerors. Thus the Giscari became but another part of the new Valyrian Empire, and in time they forgot the tongue that Grazdan spoke, learning instead High Valyrian. So do empires end and others rise.